Can you really live with one bike? I mean, can one bike really do everything you want? From road riding to off-road riding to bike packing adventure riding? Well, I've been finding out over the last few months with the help of this lovely Giant Revolt. Everybody knows how versatile these bikes are, and I've been finding out just how versatile they are. Previously, I've used it as a road bike with a fat slick tyre that came with, and found out it's pretty darn quick compared to my TCR Advanced. I've gone bike packing with loads of bags on it, and today with the WTB Rattler tyres, we're going to do some old-fashioned gravel riding and try and find out if after several months of riding, one bike can really be expected to do everything you want, and whether this Giant Revolt is a good contender for your money in 2022. So let's dive in. So how does it ride then? Well, in a word, fantastic. I've been riding it on my local trails for the last few months, and it's right at home. Riding along quiet, bumpy country lanes and then into the woods on forest tracks like this. It does that sort of mixed terrain riding so well. It's a safe choice. The Revolt always has been. Not the most exciting, no aero, no suspension. This bike just does everything you want, works so well, and there's nothing I've done with the bike that has really troubled it at all. I've rarely found the limits of the bike. It's so capable. And everything about the bike works fantastically. Specification, gearing, wheels, tyres, the geometry, it's all just a great package, works in perfect harmony. And the geometry on the new Revolt, which has changed compared to the old bike, ensures it's really good for fast gravel riding, but also as a sort of endurance road bike really, and a real threat to the future of endurance road bikes for people who want a more accessible, more versatile drop bar bike for road and off-road. And interestingly, Giant has gone in the opposite direction to the prevailing wind in the geometry world, where bikes are getting longer, slacker and lower, like modern mountain bikes, to meet the increasing demands of gravel riders. And while the changes might on paper cause concern, luckily they don't upset the great handling of this Revolt. It's a bit more responsive, a bit more agile than the old bike perhaps, but not a huge change, so if you're familiar with the old bike, you will feel right at home on this bike as well. We do have a low bottom bracket, so you feel more in the bike with lower centre of gravity, and that gives you quite a planted feel on bumpy trails and when you're bombing down a rough gravelly track and the tyres are scrabbling for grip. One fascinating feature of this bike is the adjustable geometry. We have a flip chip in the dropout here, so you can adjust the wheelbase length. Gives you 10mm of adjustment, and the main reason for that is to adjust the tyre clearance. So in standard short mode, we have 42mm tyre clearance, but lengthen the wheelbase and you have up to a 53mm tyre clearance. They also adjust the rest of the geometry here and there, but as you can see, I've got 44mm wide tyres in the short setting and a decent amount of clearance between the frame and the rear tyre. I have switched the setting quite a few times with the same tyres, and there is a difference when you ride it. You can feel a slight difference in handling responsiveness, but it's not a night and day difference. It's not black and white between the two settings, so it's very slight. I'm sure some people won't even notice the difference. And I can see people buying the bike and maybe adjusting it once, maybe twice, and then leaving it. So a set and forget thing. Not something I don't think you do on a regular basis, because you have to adjust the caliper as well. So it's not a 5-minute job, not a trailside fix for sure. So that is a feature I'm kind of sat on the fence about. I like it. I like the way it adjusts the tyre clearance, but gives that shorter wheelbase for smaller tyres. But I'm not sure whether it's a real game changer on the bike or not. Nice to have perhaps, but not essential. The comfort is pretty good. Got the carbon defuse seat post doing an excellent job of kind of flexing back and forth. Really isolates your bum from all the impacts from riding over rough ground. We do have an alloy handlebar, which in my experience compared to a carbon handlebar on a range topping Revolt I reviewed, 6 months ago, doesn't give as much kind of front end compliance. So the front end is a bit harder, but a switch to a carbon handlebar or even a red shift suspension stem would definitely give you that front end comfort to match a seated comfort. And it is a fast bike. When you give it a serious kick on the pedals, it really surges forward. Stiff, lightweight carbon frame and fork, Those carbon wheels as well, which don't weigh much. The bike just absolutely hurtles along the trail. It builds up speed so nicely, and it really snaps out corners with loads of energy. So if you're racing or just scaring yourself silly on a weekend ride in the woods, the bike really delivers on that front. I've already demonstrated just how quick the Revolt is with fat, slick tyres on the road compared to my TCR Advanced. Not much in it. This bike with 28s or 30s would narrow the gap even more. And even with these WTB Rattler tyres, this bike is still quick on the road. Doesn't give up much speed at all. And I think for many people riding at sort of modest, real world speeds on and off road, this bike with these tyres is plenty fast enough. Now let me share some likes and dislikes of this Giant Revolt after several months of riding. And generally there's more likes than dislikes, and that's no surprise. Giant does value for money really well, and there's very few parts on the bike you really want to change from the outset. So this bike here retails for £3,500 in the UK, and is very well spec'd for money. You get a Shimano GRX 2x mechanical group set, and while generally I prefer 1x for simplicity of shifting and better looks, 2x does work well in a bike expected to be good on the road and off-road as well. Plenty of gear range, nice small gaps between the different sprockets, so it does work well and being reliable, not had to adjust it at all. The indexing has been fine. It's absolutely fantastic to get some carbon fibre wheels on a bike of this price as well, and these are Giant's own, super wide, super fat, hookless, and they've been superb throughout the months I've been riding. No dings, scratches, not out of true or anything. Spoke tension is still good. The hubs are still spinning nice and smooth. The rims are hookless. Giant is a hookless advocate on the road and gravel bikes, but that caused no issues. I swapped tyres here and there with no issues at all. Most modern gravel tyres and road tyres are going to hookless compatibility, so for me, no issues there. Now, as you can see, I have changed a few parts of the bike. That's more to do with personal preference than anything being wrong with the components that came on the bike. The first one are the tyres. Now, tyre choice for a bike company to spec on a gravel bike is really, really tricky. Trying to find a tyre that can work in all parts of the world for all different gravel riders is very tricky indeed. The 14mm wide Maxxis slick tyres are a good option for commuting and if you have very fine, kind of smooth dirt gravel road to ride on. But here in the UK, with mixed weather and mixed trail conditions, you want something with a bit more bite, and these WTB Rattlers have that extra bite. But tyre choice is very much personal, depending on the way you ride a bike and that ratio road to off-road and where you live. So for any bike company to spec the perfect gravel tyre for all conditions and all riders and all parts of the world is nigh on impossible. So choose a tyre that suits the riding you're doing. Maybe have a second set of wheels as well, that's a good option, but these I found have been really good. The other personal preference change was the saddle. Didn't really get on with the Giant saddle. Too long, the wrong shape, and not enough padding. So I'll be using a 3D printed saddle from Specialized, which now has the option of metal rails, so a bit cheaper, but also compatible with gravel and mountain bikes, and that has been working really well for me. Great comfort, a great addition to the Revolt. So the Revolt is a fantastic package, great specification, great handling, does everything you want from a gravel bike in 2022. What about rivals and comparisons then? And perhaps the most natural comparison is the Canyon Grizzle, which I recently reviewed, linked down below, with a dropper seat post and a suspension fork, which costs a bit less than a bike, but Giant does offer the Revolt for $3,000 with a dropper seat post and a SRAM Rival ETAP 1x group set. You don't get carbon wheels on the Canyon, which you do on this bike. So value for money, very, very close between the two bikes. They are very similar bikes. They're both very good at riding off-road, gravel, woodland trails, but also right at home on the road. Canyon does a better job of speccing suitable tyres in the Schwalbe G1s compared to the Maxxis slicks on the Revolt. There are some subtle handling differences between the two bikes though. The Revolt has a higher stack and a shorter reach, so it's a bit more accessible, get a more relaxed fit, and that might make it more appealing to a wider range of people. And then the Revolt has a lower bottom bracket, and it actually has slacker angles, seat angles and head tube angles. So at high speed, in very technical trails, the Revolt has the edge in terms of stability, being a bit more planted and a bit easier to hang on to really when you're going flat out fast. And I think the Grizzle benefits more from that suspension fork to calm it down a bit more. Comfort is also very good on both bikes. And there we go then. Hopefully I've shown that a bike like a Giant Revolt really can do everything you want. From road riding to gravel riding to bike packing with a change of tyres, that's all you need. Now, if you want to see 5 more reasons why you should buy a gravel bike in 2022, then do check out the video up here. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel by hitting the button down here. And if you've got any questions about the bike or gravel riding in general, put them down in the comment section below. Okay, that's all for today. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you all again very soon.